incredible, awesome people here, and I was really impressed.
This discussion has sort of really helped open my eyes up.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to deal with stress, because all of these things you have heard and all of these ambitions that you have and hopes that you have and dreams that you have, they cause stress. We all have it. So how do you work through the stress? How do you just get beyond it? So here's some practical ideas. First, you have to know how stress happens. We all have an amygdala. The amygdala is about the size of half a walnut, and it's a gland in the front of our brains. And it's what gives us our subconscious evaluation of our situation. It says fight, flight, or mate, and it doesn't go much further than that. And if it is a flight or fight response, it's going to dump a bunch of hormones into our system, and it's going to change how we see the world and how we perform. And some of those hormones, we all know what they are. They're adrenaline, they're cortisol. They're going to make our palms perspire. They're going to make our breathing shallow. Maybe it's going to narrow our vision, and it's going to make it hard to think of what to say next, or maybe tighten up our muscles. And those are all stress responses that we all experience to some level or another. So the idea is that we all have to try to come to terms with is, how do we expect that and then take some action in our daily lives to prepare for it, mitigate it, and work our way through it. So here's a couple of ideas that you can do anywhere, starting tonight, starting right now, that'll help you buffer that stress response when it hits you, whatever the situation. The first is called Kim's Game. Now, you all played Kim's Game probably in grade school. It was called something else then, probably by your first grade teacher, but the game itself comes from a novel written by Rudyard Kipling in 1885. Rudyard Kipling is the British novelist from the Victorian age that we recycle every couple of years with his famous The Jungle Book, and Hollywood will bring us a new version of Baloo, and we'll experience Kipling's Jungle Book. But in his time, his more famous novel was Kim. And Kim is a novel about an Anglo-Indian preteen boy, an orphan, who gets turned into a spy by the British intelligence services to spy across the Afghan border. And one of the ways that they teach him to be a spy is by playing Kim's Game. And it starts with Kim having a quick look at a tray of gems, of jewels. And it's a tray full of gems and jewels, and he gets a quick look at it, and then they cover it with a cloth, and then they ask him how many gems, how many jewels, what color, what size, and he has to respond. And then he gets competitive with another boy that they're training. And the idea there is to teach observation and situational awareness and mindfulness, we now call it in 2016, to actually see what you're looking at. And if you think about that, that's a way to buffer that stress response, right? Because we are wandering through life. All of us are. We're walking down the street thinking about anything. We're not thinking about what's going on around us. But if we're situationally aware, if we're more mindful, then we're buffering the stress response when something unexpected happens, right? So play Kim's Game with yourself. Play Kim's Game with yourself. When you go into a new environment, just ask yourself questions. How many people are there? How many men? How many women? How many people are wearing glasses? How many people are wearing baseball hats? Okay? And make it a habit to ask yourself those kinds of questions as a way in of mindfulness, developing situational awareness, buffering the stress response that you'll feel when the unexpected happens. You're just taking yourself out of being head in the clouds and being more mindful in the situation that you're in. And if you want to challenge yourself, you can make it more things that you're going to notice in less time. So when you're standing in the checkout line at the grocery store, you can ask different questions of yourself of how many people are wearing a coat, how many people are getting water, how many people are getting Cokes, how many, and on and on and on. Until you get to a point where it becomes kind of a habitual thing that you do whenever you go into any new environment. Second little idea, little tip. The first three. Give yourself the first three things you're going to do when you enter any new environment as a way of buffering the stress response and thinking your way through those first freezing seconds of uncertainty. So you're going to go into a restaurant tonight. Your first three. You're going to find where the exit is. You're going to look how the crowd is laid out. Over here are some nice moms and pops gatherings having a nice dinner. Over there are a couple of guys getting chesty over the World Series. Sound like they've had a few. And the third thing I'm going to look at is, well, what seat at the table the hostess takes me to do I really want to occupy? So I walked into a restaurant and my first three were exit, evaluate the crowd, what seat do I want to sit in? Use the first three in any other kind of situation. I have a job interview. What are the first three things I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure I greet my interviewer well. I'm going to sit well with good posture and eye contact. And then I'm going to pull out my notepad. So your first three becomes a way into the event. It becomes a way of buffering that stress response for yourself. It becomes a way of just filling in that uncertain blank of, oh gosh, how do I start? And again, taking away that moment of amygdala control, that moment when the amygdala dumps those hormones into your system and uncertainty occurs. You don't want that. You can control, to a degree, your amygdala. So I hope that helps. I'm Gregg Jones. I love you all.
Really like the format. 20 or 10-minute speech of each speaker. I think that's really great to grab your attention.
Everyone came from such different backgrounds, and so it was amazing how much I learned more than I spoke. It was great.